Testing, testing. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. We are very excited that we're all together to share this very special day with receiving an award from the state of Wisconsin. And we have their representative from Madison, Angela Titus. So we're thrilled to death to have her here today. We have a lot of special members here today and guests. First of all, I would like to recognize Mike and Mary Cole-Ross. If you would stand up or put your hand up from Gurnee, Illinois. His mother, Irene Cole-Ross, I play her in the play. I open with Eleanor and I change to a pioneer housewife later on in the play. So I am thrilled that they're here today. I think he's my son. I'm not sure. But look what I found in our office. His father, yeah, long time ago. And this is one of our treasured artifacts. And I just wanted to bring it. So that's how far this Cole-Ross family goes back to the beginning of Greendale. And we're thrilled to have you here today. Welcome. We would also like to introduce Pam and Mark Arians. Have they come yet? Pam and Mark? No, okay. All right. We also have another honored guest today. His name is Lee Paulus. Lee, put your hand up or take a bow. The building that you're all sitting in and enjoying is here mostly because of Lee. He is an engineer and he redesigned that old dirty garage into this. He had a big support beam moved out of the middle. And we were left after he was done redesigning it. We were left with this wonderful meeting space that is public for everybody in Greendale and surrounding areas to use. So thank you, Lee, very much. I'd like to introduce my board of directors. First of all, we have, well, we'll do it real close. Keith Roberts is our member at large. Let's see, we've got Barb Toll back there. She is one of our new members at large. Next to Barb is Mike Huber, our member at large. Who else? Sally Chadwick, where are you? Put your hand up. Sally Chadwick. I don't see Jeff Birmingham. I don't think. Greg, where are you? Greg, there you are. Thank you, Greg, for coming. And of course, Ted Manila. So I think that's about all. It's really hard for me to see. It's real dark. Oh, Jane, of course, you're buried in there. Yes, and Jane Stoller. So that's our board that's here today. So I'd like to, thank you. That helps. Thank you. All right. Next, there's another special board member here whose name I did not mention. She is retiring. She has attended her last board meeting. She has taken her last notes and she's preparing our last minutes. She has done this for 20 years, I believe. I've been around 15 and Joan Berg has always been there. So Joan, let's see, where are you? So a small token of our appreciation, our dear Joan. Thank you for the wonderful, wonderful support and the work that you have done to keep this organization running. We all appreciate it so much. We also have some of our trustees here today. I'm going to call on Donna Olette, one of our senior trustees. and she has a little something to say. First of all, I've got a question for you. Who knows what day this is? Hello, it's Greendale Historical Society Day, and she'll tell you why.
The village board is presenting a proclamation to the Greendale Historical Society. I'm just going to read what the proclamation says. In recognition of the Greendale Historical Society for receiving the 2024 Board of Curators Public Program Award for the Wisconsin Historical Society, whereas the Greendale Historical Society was founded in 1976 to collect, preserve, and make available materials relating to the history of Greendale, with a mission to preserve and promote the buildings, landmarks, and artifacts that illustrate the history of Greendale, Wisconsin. Whereas the Greendale Historical Society has been awarded the prestigious 2024 Board of Curators Public Program Award from the Wisconsin Historical Society for their production of Our Town Greendale, Wisconsin. And whereas Our Town Greendale, Wisconsin is a dramatic presentation sharing the memories of Greendale's original residents from its 1938 founding, performed by members of the society in period costumes and accompanied by historical images to provide a lively portrayal of the village's early days. And whereas his production highlights the vital work of the Greendale Historical Society and preserving and sharing the rich history of our community for current and future generations. And whereas a special presentation of Our Town Greendale, Wisconsin will take place on October 20th, 2024 at 1:00 p.m. at the Historical Host Tower, during which the award from the Wisconsin Historical Society will be formally presented to the society. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the presidential proclamation declares October 20th, 2024 as Greendale Historical Society Day.
Well, we are honored that the Village of Greendale has set aside this day and made it be Greendale Historical Society Day. If you have a chance, go on up to the big electric sign on Northway and Grange, and if you watch it, it comes on there today. We're going to go take some pictures afterwards. We also have another honored guest today, Kathy Vincent. She is our county supervisor, and she has a few words. Okay.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. I'm Kathy Vincent. I am your Milwaukee County Supervisor, and I'm a proud resident and graduate of this community, and honored to be up here today to also help recognize Greendale for our great accomplishments. One of the things I want to share is that I oversee 55,000 residents in the areas of Greendale, most of Greenfield, and the southwest side of Milwaukee. That being said, Greendale has that special place in my heart because it's not only where I'm from, but it has its own unique history. And I have had the pleasure of bringing not only the county executive, but almost all of my fellow county supervisors to this district to see what great things we have to offer here. Not only our rich history, but just how active and vibrant this community is and how everybody looks out for neighbors. So on behalf of the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, I also have a proclamation for the Greendale Historic Society I'll share with you. It says, whereas the Greendale Historic Society is recognized for receiving the 2024 Board of Curators Public Program Award from the Wisconsin Historic Society, whereas the Greendale Historic Society was founded in 1976 with the mission to preserve and promote the buildings, landmarks, and artifacts that illustrate the history of Greendale, Wisconsin. And whereas the Greendale Historic Society was awarded the coveted 2024 Board of Curators Public Program Award for their production of Our Town Greendale, Wisconsin. And whereas the Greendale Historic Society's production of Our Town, Wisconsin, Greendale is a dramatic presentation of historic Greendale, displaying and sharing memories of original Greendale residents from the village founding in 1938. And whereas the Greendale Historic Society's production, Our Town, Greendale, Wisconsin, is performed by members of the Greendale Historic Society, which I'm a proud member of. in the period accurate costumes. And whereas the Greendale Historic Society is recognized for their hard work and dedication to sharing the rich history of the community for current and future generations, now therefore be it resolved, the members of the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, on the motion of Supervisor Kathleen Vincent, along with Supervisors Priscilla E. Coggs Jones, Jack Ekblad, Willie Johnson Jr., Patty Logston, Juan Miguel Martinez, Ann O'Connor, Sean Rowland, Stephen Shea, Stephen F. Taylor, Sequana Taylor, and Chairwoman Marcilia Nicholson do hereby commend the Greendale Historic Society for their dedicated efforts and contributions to the community. And we wish them prosperity, happiness, and continued success in all of their personal and professional endeavors. And so want to recognize you today. Thank you.
Excited about that? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. My, lot going on today. Holy cow. Well, it's almost the end of the year, believe it or not, 75 degrees, but it's almost November. And once again, the Historical Society of Greendale has had a wonderful, very busy year. What have we been up to this year? Well, let's see. We've done lots of tours of Greendale down in the village and of our house on Apple Court. At one point, we had 220 eighth graders, students come in our house. We were happy to have them come. We also were honored to have Osher, the senior arm of the University of Wisconsin. They have now added Greendale to their catalog of day trips to come. We've had our second group of Osher members come to Greendale, and they sell out and they seem to like coming here. So we're going to be looking for that in the future also. We've had the fire engine out. I bet a lot of you have seen it, giving lots of rides to kids and during village days, during the market, during schools out in June. We gave free rides to all the kids coming out of the elementary schools in Greendale. We're always happy to share our fire engine, the Diamond T, with everybody. We've had open house tours. And then in July, who came to Greendale? But our first ever movie shoot, we had a producer and director and cinematographer locally from Shorewood, Wisconsin. They were filming a movie, and part of the movie takes place in the 1930s. They were hunting for an appropriate building, an appropriate house. They somehow found ours online and asked if they could come up and shoot a movie. So for a week or two, we had a big black box around our yellow house because it was August, but in the movie, it was Chicago in the 30s in the middle of winter. So it's amazing what those movie people can do. We were, some of us were able to be quiet little mice and sit in a corner and watch the process. I will say, I saw one 3-minute take in the script. They did it 17 times. And people know me, I don't have much patience. So I guess movie making would never be in my wheelhouse, but it was great to have our house in a movie. We're looking forward to be edited in post-production, and it will be taken to the film festivals. The cinematographer has already been honored at the Berlin Film Festival with some of his other work. So we're looking forward to seeing the finished project. So then who did we have 2 weeks ago? We were notified a week before that a movie producer and her crew would like to come to Greendale because they are making a documentary about all 3 Greenbelt communities, and they would like to come to shoot Greendale. They had never been here before. So they came about 10 days ago. They spent 3 days here, 3 long days. If you saw the drone, the cinematographer had a drone with a camera. And he was always putting it up over the middle school, which was our community building, the flagpole and other spots in Greendale. We did our best to take them and show them everything about Greendale that we could. And I will say they fell in love with Greendale. They came at the most beautiful time of year. I think autumn in Greendale is stunning. And they got to sample some Wisconsin things and Greendale things. They got to sample a pizza at Ricardo's. Oh, they had an old fashioned there also. They got to have cheese curds from the Wisconsin Cheese Mart down on 3rd Street in Milwaukee. And they also a lot of them were bringing home summer sausages from Usingers tucked in their suitcases. So we were happy to have them. And that next week they go to Greenbelt, Maryland. The producer of this movie grew up in Green Hills, Ohio. And if any of you have been to Green Hills, it's very different than Greendale because they have mostly multiple residences, long row houses. They could not get over how many individual, attractive originals that we had. They just kept talking about that all the time. So we're happy to have what we have in Greendale. And that was quite interesting. That too is going into post-production after they go to Greenbelt. And so we probably will not see a finished product till next year. When it's done, the producer said she has to go try and sell it to PBS. So it will be on Channel 10. So stay tuned. We'll let you know. So we also have a very special, along with our short business meeting today and election, we have an honored guest from Madison, Wisconsin. Ms. Angela Titus is going to be here to present our award, and I'll tell you a little bit about her after a while. So next up, we've got I've got one more thing to announce. Coming up, I've told you what we've done this year. What about next year? Next year is our 50th anniversary as the Historical Society of Greendale. We're going to be forming a little ad hoc committee to come up with some ideas of how should we celebrate our 50 years next year. And if you're interested, at the bottom of your agenda sheet today, your program, you can put your name in there and be part of that organization. So I'm thinking we have a lot to celebrate, and we're going to have a special year next year. Also, on November 4th, coming up in about 2 weeks, at the Board of Trustees meeting on November 4th, we're going to have a guest from Madison, another guest from Madison. And he is going to be talking about the Historic Commission in Greendale. It's being revised. And if you're a member, you're invited to appear or join us at that Board of Trustee meeting. They start at 6 o'clock in the Village Hall on November 4th, and we'd love to have you come and sit in and listen to the process. So next, we're up for our election of officers. We have our member, Amy. Where are you, Amy? Amy's going to be running our election, and it shouldn't take too long. There are only 2 people up for election today, Ted Manila as treasurer and me as president. So Amy, do your thing.
All right. I'm gonna step on in here just because one of the other things I am doing is recording this meeting and broadcasting on YouTube. So my name is Amy Krensky, and I was a board member at large for, I don't know, 6 years or something like that. 5 years, and the past couple years, after I stepped away from the board, I've been managing all the social media, so our Facebook and then our website. So that's what I am doing in the background, as well as when we have meetings like this, doing recordings. So that's me, just so you know who I am and why I'm doing this election. And I want to open up. So right now I want to announce the board of directors, and it's recommending, as Marge said, for a 2-year term for Marge Hill as president, and then Ted Manila as treasurer. And the vice president term is until June 2025. And then the secretary position will be temporarily assigned to a board member, for your knowledge. So right now I'm going to declare nominations for the president are now open. So I am going to open it to the floor for Marge to be nominated. So I heard a first somewhere and a second. All right. So any others? So any other nominations at this time? It's all right. If there's none, I'm going to declare the nominations for president are closed. And that means, Marge, you are the president for the next term. All right. Super, thank you. And so next up, we will do the treasurer position. So at this point, I'm declaring the nominations for treasurer to be open. So Ted Manila. And then I'm going to ask for nominations from, where am I at? Sorry, I lost my point in my thing. So Marge is nominating Ted. So that's a first. I'll need a second. All right. Thank you for the second. So at this point, I want to ask for any other nominations. Any other nominations? All right. So if there's none, I'm going to declare nominations for treasurer are closed at this point. And Ted will be our treasurer. So let's see. So at this point, we're going to elect Marge as president and Ted Manila for a 2-year term, starting today by acclamation by saying, and this is for members only, saying aye for all those and any nay for the nay vote. All right. So at this time, we're going to elect Marge and Ted, and that is that. So congratulations to them. And thank you for bearing with me. It's already made notes.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is our annual meeting, and by our bylaws, we have to hold an election and we have to have a business meeting. So we're trying to adhere to that. All right. Next, we have reports briefly by some of our committees. First, I'm asking Mary Manila, who is in charge of education outreach, to give us a brief update.
And Jane is going to do the educational piece, right? No? No. Oh. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I was under the impression that I was talking about the house. Yes, and that's our Apple Courthouse, of course. And I do want to mention that because on your sheet, it does have a little place where it says, would you like to help us with our fall cleanup? And if so, please check it. It would just involve things like that our cleaning service doesn't do, like going through the kitchen drawers and taking everything out and wiping it. And maybe a little, we'll be doing the blankets, washing, getting things ready for winter, that sort of thing. Light tasks, but stuff that our homemaking group, the two maids, do not do. So if you'd be interested, I know we had fun when we did it last time. I remember somebody with their vacuum cleaner having a great old time. So thank you. As far as the educational outreach goes, this is a lot of the things that we do, including the play, is educational outreach. Do we have something new that we wanted to talk about under educational outreach? Okay, but anybody interested in being on that committee, we would certainly appreciate that kind of help as well. We do everything from the different tours and the visits to the home and that sort of thing. But we also do some materials that we provide for people, and we could always use some help when updating on that type of thing and whatever else that we can do to just educate folks in our great community, Greendale, Wisconsin.
Thanks, Mary. Okay. Next up, Mike Huber, our magic man that keeps that diamond tea running.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone. First of all, I'm being directed toward the camera up here. Okay. Are there any historical society members other than Greendale here today? Besides a pair from Franklin? All right. Any others? Milwaukee? Wonderful. Wonderful to have you here. For the past year, we have been storing the Diamond T fire engine at the Greendale Fire Department. And because of cramped space and other equipment coming in, we were asked to find other accommodations. That's a long process. We temporarily have put it in storage in Muskego for the winter, hoping obviously to get it out as soon as we get warm weather and other opportunities arise. So that's pretty much where the Diamond T is today, and you'll be seeing more of it. You'll be seeing more of it as the weather changes and gets warmer in the next spring. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for keeping our treasured diamond tea running. For those of you who hadn't heard, we now offer birthday parties on the fire engine. And we've done one of those where we went to the little boy's house. He was 7 years old. His parents said he was obsessed with firemen and fire engine. And he had the biggest smile on his face when Mike and Ted came driving down his street and pulled up in front of his house for he and 7 or 8 of his little friends to hop on the back of the fire engine. We provided helmets for them, red helmets, and they got to run the siren and ring the bell. And they had a tour of Greendale. The drivers took him by his school. He had to go by his school and wave to kids that he knew. So that was quite an outing for him. We look forward to doing more of that to come. We've also had a wedding booked. They would like our fire engine at the wedding next July. So, it's always a matter of weather because there's no cover on the fire engine, but we sure hope that we're able to do that. So if you or anybody you think would be interested in doing a private fire engine party ride, let us know. Thanks. Okay. Yes. Oh, there you are. Oh, it's really hard for me to see in this. Well, we're doing Greendale right now. I guess it would depend how far away it is. We are looking very forward to Loomis Road being finished because Mike had to drive that fire engine down Loomis Road 6 miles to put it into winter storage, and it's not fun. I think local, but I mean, if it were a half a mile away, a quarter mile away, yeah, we'll have to kind of take it, case by case. Yeah. Okay. So then next we have Jane Steller, who is running our archives committee. Come on, Jane.
Whereas I am treasurer, whereas I'm about to make a report, whereas, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, didn't mean that. Thank you very much for the proclamations. Yes, I'm indeed the treasurer, and I have a brief report. But before I do that, I just wanted to mention a couple of things that go along with what's been previously said. And Marge gave a nice report about how the Apple Court was used as a movie set. That was in July this summer. We're just finishing up an article for the magazine called Life in the Village. How many of you are familiar with that magazine? Okay, terrific. One of our members, Mike Vickery, and I have been working on that article, and we'll be putting the finishing touches on it by deadline tomorrow. So I'll be leaving shortly. But look for that article because it will tell the whole story of that movie that was made in July. So we've got 2 movies going on, and so we'll keep them straight. But I think you'll find it very interesting. Tells the story of how that movie came about and what the plans are for the future. The other thing is that form at the bottom of your agenda, it's really very important. At last July's meeting, we had an excellent response to that. That's probably one of the best responses we ever had. So use that form because we actually rely on that. It helped us recruit 3 new board members, a couple other committee members, and you're not signing your life away. It just shows you that you're interested in something. And then what we will do is we'll contact you and tell you more detail about what area you're interested in. So as you know, with any organization, unless we recruit and encourage new people to participate, we're in trouble. So we need your help, and we really appreciate you filling out that form, dropping it off, and there'll be some place at the exit door there to turn those in. And then the last thing before I get to the money part, how many of you heard about this meeting? How many of you heard about this meeting because you got a postcard from us? Raise your hands up high. Okay, great, and hands down. How many of you either heard about it only because of or in addition to an email? Okay, so that's good. So the word's getting out. How many of you just happened to be wandering by this afternoon and stopped in here? See a couple, okay, just a couple. All right, we'll sign you up for membership. Okay, thanks a lot, because that helps us. We spend a lot of time on that. So now I'm going to get to the actual report. If you want a complete report, you can go to our website, and there'll be a link there which gives you a complete report of our financial. We have a bookkeeper. Her name is Roberta Mashlin. She's been working with us for over 10 years. We also have a hired accountant that makes sure that the reports that Roberta and I file and the receipts that we keep track of and the invoices that we pay are done according to standard accounting techniques. So we take our job very seriously. We're dealing with a significant amount of money, as you'll hear in just a second. And we treat this very carefully and are doing our best to be good stewards of the generous donations that come from our members. So thank you for that. So just real briefly, our liabilities and assets, in other words, our total net worth right now is $232,000, $232,586,000, which includes the house on Apple Court. So if you know how net worth works, that means if we got rid of everything, we're worth $232,000. Currently in our checking account, so that's ready cash on hand, is currently $43,363. Our latest major bills that we paid, we purchased a new laptop computer. We spent $546 on that. And the other major expense, as you might imagine, was our insurance. That costs $6,408. We're insuring the Greendale Historical Society directors and officers. We're insuring our place of business, which is at the Welcome Center. We're insuring the house on Apple Court as a rental property and as homeowners, essentially. And we're also insuring the Diamond T fire engine. So as the old saying goes, insurance is really expensive until you need it. Then it's the cheapest thing you ever bought. So with that, any questions? We also have liability insurance that covers activities at the house, and it also covers liability for the activities that we conduct. Okay. Yeah, Mike? The question is, how's the house doing? To date, we have a positive cash flow. So through September, so year to date, through September, Apple Court has netted, that means after everything is paid, it's netted $13,588. So, you can do the quick math on that. Roughly, it's not 10 months, but pretty close. So we're netting at about $1,300 a month. And I say that with a lot of pride, knowing full well that it takes a lot of people to make that happen. It's not just any one person. So we're in a small business. The Greendale Historical Society is a small business, and we try to run everything in a business-like way. Yeah, Nancy? Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I've asked our accountant that very same question. And the reason why she lists the value of the house as the amount that we paid for it, which was 70,000, and the amount that we put into it, which was 125,000. So she listed at that because real estate prices fluctuate up and down. So she is actually putting the value in it of the money that we actually spent. Okay, did everybody hear that question? Okay, the question was, if I can, Nancy, the question was, is the house on Apple Court, 5597 Apple Court, is that insured for its current value? The answer is yes. So these are two different things. This is like an accounting of the house. And I asked her, I said, well, why don't you put down that's worth 300,000? And she said, well, for these reasons, we don't do that. However, when we take out insurance, it's insured for its replacement value and the contents. So does that answer your question? Okay. Okay, good question. Yeah, Bob? It's not insured for 120,000. It's insured for a replacement value. We invested 120,000 in it. That's what it took to fix it up. I'd have to look up those numbers, but I evaluated our insurance at the last time we paid the bill, and in my estimation, we are insured appropriately. So it's insured as if it were my house. So you don't insure it for the cost of the market value of rebuilding the house, is my understanding. Well, that's a good point. I will follow up on that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why it's confusing. The accounting value of the house and the actual value are two different things. And that's why our insurance for the house, I believe the breakdown on it was the house is $2,400 alone. So when I looked at the insurance this last month, I was satisfied that we had the proper amount of insurance. But I appreciate these questions, and I will double check and make sure. Does that help, Bob? Are there any other questions? Are there any other questions? That truck we figured out gets about 2 miles per gallon. it lacks, I don't, I know I'm taking more time than I probably should. Did anyone ever drive a 1960 Volkswagen? The Diamond T, the 1938 Diamond T shares a characteristic with a 1960 Volkswagen, both of which I've driven quite a bit. The 1960 Volkswagen did not have a gas gauge. Neither does the Diamond T, nor did it have. So it would be virtually impossible for anyone that's experienced as a driver. You know, I've been driving since I was 16 years old. I'm a small airplane pilot. It would be impossible for anyone with that kind of a background to drive that vehicle and run out of gas. It'd be impossible. However, Mike, okay, well, these are good questions, and I will follow up on that and make sure that that's clarified. Okay, so anything else? Okay, I'm done finally. And then after we're done, we're gonna do a little bit of setup to convert the meeting room into a theatrical venue. So after Marge has some concluding comments, there'll be just a momentary break, and she'll tell you what we're gonna do the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah. All right, well, that concludes our business meeting, and that makes us in accordance with holding our annual meeting. So thank you for sitting through all that. I hope you enjoy hearing what we're up to. And anytime you can help, you know, you're always welcome, because this society is you. It is all the members. All the members that volunteer so many hours. We would be nothing without you. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Here. Okay.
Right here.
I
Plastic, aren't they?
All right, for the rest of the afternoon or for the next hour or so, we're going to be performing a shortened version of Our Town Greendale. It is the vehicle that helped us win this wonderful award from the state of Wisconsin. And we're going to give you a 20-minute little part of the play. And then I will certainly introduce you to our honored guest from Madison with our award. Thank you.
Welcome to our town, Greendale, Wisconsin. Please join us as we journey back to the 1930s. It was the Great Depression, and Franklin Roosevelt was president. The country was desperate for change, and for some, that change would be found near farmland just a few miles from the city of Milwaukee. It would be called Greendale, and by 1938, it would be the new hometown for hundreds of young families. How that came to be is the story we're going to tell this afternoon. You will hear from the earliest Greendale residents, the pioneers, as recorded in the book Greendale Remembered. It's in their own words, and they will tell it what it was like to be a Greendale pioneer. It took a woman with strong ideas and the determination to make sure it happened just the way it was planned. That woman was, of course, Eleanor Roosevelt. It makes sense that the first person we talked to was FDR's eyes, ears, and legs, his wife Eleanor.
I visited the Greendale Resettlement Project, and it is a wonderful site. I wish, however, that every group of architects would have a woman at their elbow so that they could advise on such details as the proper placing of things, which the woman uses daily to get her work done. These details may seem insignificant, but they make all the difference in the world with the ease at which the work can be accomplished, and therefore the happiness of the woman in the house.
Well, here you see a young family checking into one of those model homes. We'll go inside one of the houses in just a minute. I wonder who that young mother is at the front door with those kids.
Monroe Arians and I became engaged in 1936. Those were the Great Depression days. The Milwaukee Journal was full of exciting news that Milwaukee would be one of 3 sites that the federal government under President Roosevelt had chosen to build greenbelt towns for middle-income people. The work would be done with WPA labor to create jobs for the unemployed. This was our dream.
This is how our town looks from the air. You know, of course, they had airplanes back then and they had cameras, but Greendale was out in the sticks. It was surrounded by farms.
When we had athletic events at other schools, they would be teasing us about coming from the country and being farmers. Well, never bothered us too much when we beat them. Go Greendale.
Well, why would people want to move out to Greendale? What was the attraction? For many, it was a chance for a new beginning. to get away from the crowded city and live in the country. As you can see here, thousands of city dwellers drove out to the sticks to view these new homes. The buildings in the background, that's where the workers were housed.
There was a lot of work for a lot of men. This was the Great Depression, and Greendale would play a small part in putting people back to work. It would be homes built by working men, for working men and their families. Laborers and skilled workers were hired by the hundreds. Greendale was hard to find back then, and some people say it still is today. The planners knew they would have to advertise, so they promoted Greendale as homes for working men. Could working men afford to live in Greendale? Did you know that all Greendale pioneers rented their homes from 1938 to 1952?
Well, let's talk about money for a second. The minimum wage in 1938, as you can see here, was 25 cents. Today, that quarter would be worth $5.71. But most workers in Greendale were paid much more. The income range to move into Greendale was a minimum of $2,000 a year, and the maximum was $3,500. If you were approved to move into Greendale, and you had to have a decent job during the Great Depression. Well, here's Irene Colross and Dora Arians to tell us about that part of the Greendale story.
Well, much money. You move into Greendale, but if you get the turn out, you couldn't move into Greendale either. And all the time, no, for what?
In April 1938, the magical letter that we had said we could move into Greendale in May. That same day, though, my husband had a work cutback, which reduced his meager apprentice earnings from $65 a month to $48, less than the required minimum needed to move into Greendale. But the government allowed that at the completion of his apprenticeship, he would be earning a full salary of $150 a month. I was earning $30 a week as a credit union teller, but a wife's salary was not counted because it was assumed that a woman would quit work when she started a family.
Well, Dora, it looks like you manage your expenses quite well. This was communal living in Greendale. Notice how the whole block had one electric bill and they had to divide it up. The government owned all the homes and you applied to live here. Irene told us about how the government assigned each family a house. What about those houses? What were they like? Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And every place has its legends, and that's one of the legends about Greendale. The legend is that the builders, remember, this was the federal government, mixed up the plans, and the other Greenbelt towns got our basements. It's a great story, but it's not true. It was all, it's like anything else. It was about the money. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. What Greendale did get on those solid foundations were sturdy syncrete block homes with clay tile roofs designed and built to last. This house is identical to the one the Greendale Historic Society bought and is now fully restored and insured, welcoming guests to Greendale. Well, as I said, Greendale was surrounded by farms, so the soil must have been good for gardens. Viola, could you please tell us folks about your Greendale garden?
Well, right where the high school is now, there was all farmland. Then the government plowed it up for individual gardens, big ones. There was a little creek flowing through there, and we used that water for our gardens. We had corn, potatoes, cabbage, everything. The only thing we had to watch out for were the pheasants. They loved the tomatoes. We worked hard on the garden. Gee, it was nice to get all that produce from our gardens.
So in 1938, when I was 10, my parents, Harry and Sylvia Whittle, were one of the first families to move into one of the single 3-bedroom original homes. Here's one of the classic Greendale originals. Some folks moving out in Milwaukee wanted a single home, so a lot were built just like this one. But a few of them were built a little differently. This has 1 bedroom and it was called a honeymooner. Can anybody guess why?
Well, did I tell you that the government owned all the houses? Did I tell everybody that?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay, when you applied to live here and you were assigned a house to live in based on your moderate income and your family size. Well, what if the size of your family changed?
Well, my mom and dad and brother lived on Basswood Street in a 2-bedroom side by side. But the rule was if you had a boy and a girl, you had to move to a 3-bedroom house. So when I was born, we were asked to move to that 3-bedroom home. My mom still lives there today.
Well, there were those 2-family homes, but there were a lot of streets which consisted of a bunch of single-family homes that all looked identical. What could possibly go wrong?
There was a younger woman who lived with her mother. Her boyfriend was invited over to stop in, and when he opened the door and said, "Honey, I'm here," the older woman in a nightcap appeared at the top of the stairs. He had gone to the wrong house.
Well, that's a great story, Minnie, and thank you for sharing that. Minnie Prue lived in a Greendale original on Angle Lane until she passed away at the age of 103. Let's take a look inside one of those Greendale homes. Remember, Greendaleirs called them original.
Here is a typical living room, and it's just like ours at Apple Court, all built by those laborers and skilled workers with the best materials that the government could provide. The floors, the beamed ceiling, the solid core 6-panel doors made of Douglas fir. Let's hear it now from from Jim Kendellen about his original home.
Well, thank you for that, Jim. Well, did I mention that everything was close by? You could walk to the stores and get all that you needed for dinner. The walking trails, which still exist, allowed anyone from Greendale in any spot to just take a 10-minute walk and be right down in the center of the village. So let's go shopping.
think there was any better place in the world to grow up. The community as a whole, going to the drugstore, walking to the grocery store for your parents, standing in line. If you needed 35 cents and you had 34 cents, the person behind you would say, "Hey, Jimmy, here's a penny." Those were the kind of things that would happen.
Because Greendale was always a very close community. There was this closeness. There was nobody better than anyone else. We were all in the same income bracket. We made do with what we had, and everyone was happy.
Very important. Always have some kind of a party on that. Very important. All people in Greendale were really very friendly and good neighbors. And all of us together as friends. We had lots of block parties.
Planners tried to ensure that there was lots of fun to be had. So they surveyed potential residents and they asked them what kind of things you wanted in Greendale. 1 out of 3 said they wanted a tavern. Remember, this is Milwaukee. The planners readily agreed and built a tavern.
You could buy a ticket for the movie. They had a drawing at the theater. If you bought a ticket on certain days of the week, you got a dish. And if you did enough, you got a whole set.
Yes, it was our very own neighborhood theater. You could walk there and even meet up with that cute boy you met in study hall. Right, Ted?
Well, I see we're about out of time. Our short trip around our town of the 1930s is just about over. We heard from the pioneers in their own words, recollections of those who moved in first, shopped in the co-op grocery store, had block parties, and yes, some of them even died here. They told us that Greendale was built to provide jobs and homes and schools and stores for young families during the Great Depression. Isn't it amazing that we're still welcoming folks to Greendale 86 years after those houses were built? You know, in 2012, Greendale was designated a National Historic Landmark. Prior to that, we received a listing on the National Register of Historic Places. That's a lot of history, isn't it? And I think it's important that we have to know that. But it's also important, don't you think, that we know the daily life of people, how they really lived in Greendale? Like stories about Dora and Irene and how they worried about their budget, about how Viola was so proud of her garden. Those are the kind of things that people will remember. And of course, Jimmy needing that extra penny. That's important history too. So that's why we recorded all those loving memories in this book. And these are the words that our pioneers are reading today in the book, Greendale Remembered. We're reminded of the importance of the Greendale story, and it's important to our country's history. Thank you all today for coming, and thanks to our pioneers.
So that's our remembrance of the beginning of Greendale, and I hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed doing it for you. And it is that little play that got submitted to the State of Wisconsin Historical Society, and they award special honors for some events and some things that they think are special and really help educate people on the history of a village. So today we are very honored with our special guest. Let me get my notes on her. I'd like to introduce. I would certainly like to honor our guest from Madison, Wisconsin, from the State Historical Society, Ms. Angela Titus. And let me tell you a little bit about Angela. Yeah, this is going to take a while. She has previously served in senior leadership roles at the San Diego Zoo Global and United Way of San Diego. She's responsible for leading all the societies in the state of Wisconsin with educational programmatic channels, and she also serves as a member of the senior leadership team. Her background is a bachelor's from Harvard, a master's from Northwestern down the road in Evanston. And before she was in nonprofit, she also worked for profit companies, including Gillette USA, Daymore Worldwide, and International Paper. She has won several awards for her work in brand storytelling and communications, and we are very honored to have her here today.
Thank you so much. Oh, your president does her homework. I am so impressed. Marge, did not expect that at all. I love this place. I mean, there's a special feeling as you come into town, and that continues with the people that I've encountered and met. I mean, just a really wonderful community. So thanks to Marge for the invitation and Ted for submitting this, submitting your program for the Board of Curators Awards. We do these every year. And this is one of my favorite ones because it's always fun to see the ways that people tell stories. And I love that you use the arts and you went into the humanities to, dig into interesting ways to tell history. People think sometimes that history is dry, and it's, anyone watching that performance can see it's anything but that. Very entertaining and creative. I mean, using the arts is such a powerful way to tell history and tell stories. So kudos to you guys for not just doing the expected and the routine way of sharing history. I thoroughly enjoyed the selection. And for us, our mission to collect, preserve, and share stories, it only happens because of local historical societies like yours. All of the history really starts locally, and it can become part of a national story, as Greendale has, and it also can be part of international stories, right? A lot of incredible things happened here in Wisconsin that, if you think Wisconsin to the world, right, there's a lot of great stories. And I'm not just talking about Harley and Kohler, but all of the wonderful stories that come out of local communities like this. So you all play a really important part in us collecting the things that we do. We have millions of items in the collection, and many of them are local, everyday objects, documents. I mean, the way that Sally Chadwick has that foresight in the 90s to start, and the work that you're all continuing is the way that it gets done. Now, a lot of those things end up in the State Historical Society collection, and they help to tell the stories for people, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. So it's, we are very cognizant of and very appreciative of the work that local historical societies do. So give yourselves a round of applause for that, please. So I have this award here, and I would love to read a note of congratulation from our director, Christian Overland, if you wouldn't mind. I'm going to get a dazzling display of my reading skills right now. So I'll skip the salutation, but Christian says he's delighted to offer his congratulations to the Greendale Historical Society for receiving the 2024 Board of Curators Public Program Award in recognition of the Our Town Greendale, Wisconsin theater production. The Board of Curators voted to approve this award on June 14th, 2024. And as I mentioned earlier, each year, the Wisconsin Historical Society's Board of Curators recognizes outstanding historical work that helps connect people to the past. I am honored to congratulate the award winners for this year for exemplary work in preserving and sharing history that makes a difference, not just for those who can appreciate it today, but also for future generations. The judges were impressed with the management, production, and impact of the program on attendees. And I know you had multiple showings of the play and standing ovations, and I could see why. Our town, Greendale, Wisconsin, displayed an impressive scope of research, bringing together oral histories compiled in Greendale Remembers, which I'm really impressed that that book is in the 6th printing. That's pretty remarkable. Historical photos and historical clothing research. The play provided an entertaining way to share the story of Greendale's beginnings as a Greenbelt community. On behalf of the Wisconsin Historical Society and the Board of Curators, congratulations on this achievement. Thank you for all you do to collect, preserve, and share Wisconsin history. All the best, Christian W. Overland. Thank you. Okay, Madam President, would you like to come up and receive your award?
Yeah, come on up here. We are, the whole Historical Society of Greendale is very honored that the state of Wisconsin would notice what we do in our little production of Our Town Greendale, and that you thought it was a good way, an appropriate way to foster our history. We have a very unique history, being one of the 3 Greenbelt towns from the Great Depression, Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. And we hope that by doing this play, honoring our pioneers who we say the words that they recorded years ago. Nobody writes our script. All the words that you heard, all the dialogue comes from Greendale Remembers. And we like to be accurate with what they said. So we are very honored that you thought that this was a good way to foster our history. And I would like to do a shout out, especially to Ted Manila. It was his idea to do this play, and he has been the backbone of it, sound and staging. He has done so much to do this, so I really feel he should be up here getting this award. Thank you, Ted. Come on up, come on up.
And I thank you very much. I appreciate that. And just like in any production or any operation, it takes a lot of people. And if we're going to give shout outs, I must give a shout out to the only reason that Greendale Remembers book exists is because in 1995, I was sitting here just as you are at a historical society meeting, and we had a huge crowd that night. There must have been 17 or 18 people in the library basement. And our president at the time, Sally Chadwick, said, I've got this idea that we record an oral history of people in Greendale, and that we compile a list of names. I called it a hit list. And we came up with 100 names of people that we thought would be good folks to tell the Greendale story, like Irene Kohlross. And so we sent out a crew and actually recorded them on audio tape, but this is all Sally's idea. So Sally, great job here.
I will also mention that Sally was one of two influential people who worked for a long time to get Greendale to be designated a National Historic Landmark. Sally, you've done an amazing job for the whole village of Greendale. Thank you. And I want to thank all the other actors in our play. We all have a really good time doing this. It's fun to put on costumes, you know, and pretend we're in the 1930s, but we're happy to do this for you. And thank you so very much. We have special desserts, little gourmet desserts that were furnished by our village president, Jason Sabrowski, and the Eleanor Restaurant. So please help yourself. We've got, it's a punch out. We've got punch and gourmet cupcakes. So help yourself. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.